Yeah, you know what it is. Welcome to the best coast. Yo, it's Bronze Age nerd with that collecting elite. Bigby McFly steady bringing the vintage heat. Pull up a seat, we diving in the stacks. Silver to the bronze, got the knowledge on tap. From Kirby's Kings to the mutants, wow. We breaking it down in that laid back style. So grab your snacks, let the panels unfold. This is comic book chilling with the stories we told. Comic book vibes, we flipping them pages. Legends and lore from all the ages. Golden to the modern, we talk that news. With Bigby McFly and the nerd cut loose. Yo, you tune into that Bronze Age flow. Where comics live and legends grow. Bigby McFly in the cut, let's fly. Best coast, baby, comics are what saved me. Big, yeah. Baby, comics are what saved me.
Hello, comics and pop culture people. It's your friend Brian, aka Bigby McFly, co-host of the wonderful Best Coast Comics. And my awesome co-host is dealing with an issue right now, and he will be here shortly. So he asked me to start the show. So actually, I wanted to ask Jay really quick. Jay, you excited?
You know, when Superman Legacy was announced, I was a little bit hyped. The more that I've seen of it, I am so excited. Less than 24 hours to go for me. I am so excited. It's going to drag. And then when I'm in that theater, it's going to fly by. I can already tell.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people are really excited to see that. It looks really good. So I will expect a full report from you. I'm sure we're going to hear some non-spoiler stuff right away, and then we'll hear some spoiler stuff like a week following, maybe, or shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I'm thinking so, because I'm also going to be talking about it on Thursday on The Experience. And again, no spoilers, because trust me, I am definitely that person that I want people to be able to see this. There's already going to be enough people out there that are going to try to spoil this for you. But see this as soon as you can if you're excited for it, folks.
Right. Well, it is hot and humid up here in the Pacific Northwest. Hot for us anyway. It's 90 degrees today, 90 plus degrees. So I'm sure Bronze will be looking like me, where I'm trying not to melt. Even with the AC going, I was trying to do some stuff where there was no AC. So. But without further ado, let's say hey to the chat. So let's get up here. We got, is it Derek? Is he in there first? Derek coming in with the gold medal, and then Richard just taking over. multiple from Richard. And then we got Rich Stanky. I don't know how you pronounce your name, Rich, exactly. So I'm going to say Stanky. But expect an alternative distributor will emerge as a frontrunner among the current flock of new companies springing up. Creator-owned will be the future as bigger names refuse to work for hire. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and star that for Bronze to check out when he comes in. But yeah, I do agree with some of that sentiment. I think that we're going to see a lot more of the creator-owned stuff. But I don't think crowdfunding is the future either, as most fans won't drop $10 each for standard issues of a comic series. Okay. And then we got GT Key dropping in saying, hey, with that awesome G.I. Joe #2 logo there. Comic Tropes, our good friend Chris. I need to get back further because this bar is covering me old face. Hey, there's my buddy.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you wonderfully.
Perfect. Thanks for taking the intro to the show, folks. Hey, so bit of a problem when you go do a live charity auction from your buddy's house and raise thousands of dollars for veterans. Make sure you test your equipment when you set it back up before you go live again, instead of just assuming it's going to work, because sometimes it doesn't.
So I didn't finish saying hi to everybody. We got Richard Westfall coming in again here saying hey to Chris, and then Kilted Corgi. So there we go. And then, and then Korriban Hideout. So hello.
All those filthy Sith hanging out on Korriban. Not him, just the other. The other filthy Sith. Doing pretty well. You know, always fun when you're trying to come into a show and you're on your back feet because it doesn't work. So
I'm sorry.
Instead of
brother.
having that fun moment behind stage where we talk and get ready for the show.
Yeah, I was
just
expecting to
join
be able to
live.
have a little chit chat, and that didn't happen.
Yeah. So doing pretty well. How about you, man?
You know, hanging in there. Got some cool little AOKs from some people. Maybe we can show those off here in a minute. But
Yeah.
it was kind of neat. And yeah, doing good. Had a wonderful adventurous weekend, as I've told you about. We can't talk about that here, but
Nice.
yeah, things are going. Things are looking up. So
Right on.
yeah, and I'm excited to talk about our topic. And I made a list of the things I've been watching and reading. You know, so we're good. I'm prepped.
Sweet. I'm glad. It's always good to have somebody prepared. At least there should be one of us on the show.
There can be only one.
Yeah, it's Highlander rules, everybody. So we'll continue saying hi to people as they drop into the show. We appreciate you being here. My wonderful co-host, Bigby, was awesome in the beginning. I was able to hear everything he was saying. He did such a great job, folks. I really appreciate that. I do want to take a second. Boy, I overheard Jay talking about how so this is going to be boring for anybody who doesn't stream on YouTube. They have changed things quite a bit on StreamYard recently, which is the software we use to stream. I still enjoy it, but man, it's confusing when you're hopping in. You're like, wait, where's that button? Where's that? What happened? So real fast before we get too far into the show, I kind of alluded to it when I hopped in. I just want to take a second to thank everybody that was part of our charity live stream that we had from the Bigby Borough, is what he has officially named it. Last Saturday,
with a better name.
we'll workshop it. Last Saturday we streamed for about 7 hours or so, and normally we have a couple people that join us for that. They couldn't join us this time because of some scheduling conflicts, and so it was we were a little trying to do some extra work, and luckily like Richard was able to join us. Richard Westfall from the chat, you guys see him most weeks. He is in there earlier. Was able to join us remotely and do some spreadsheet work, which was really helpful. Yeah, but it went pretty well. And in fact, it went better than I expected.
It was going to be a train wreck to start with, and we just soldiered through, and we made it happen.
Because the very first thing I woke up to on Saturday was, I better share the link for there was this group I'm in, and I'm like, I'm going to share the link over there. So I load up the website to copy the link, and the website didn't work. Which it had been working all that week. Yeah, the day of. And unfortunately, so what had happened is we learned later that Mission 22 was switching. This is, in some inside baseball. They were switching from mission22.com to .org. And in that changeover process, apparently something got a little broke. But we got it working. We did the stream. I want to talk real fast about our progress and kind of what the next steps are before we get into the rest of the show. So hopefully you can all be out there spreading the word on what's going on with Mission 22. So here's the website we're currently live. It works. It's a slightly different URL. It is in the description, but I'll go ahead and paste it in the chat as well. And we're currently at 4262. We'd had a goal of $5,000 this year. That is 85.24% of our goal so far this year. So yes, it would have been great to leave that stream hitting the goal of $5,000, but I am confident with some of the other plans we have, some of the items we have remaining, and some of the people that have been in contact about making donations. I think we're going to exceed that $5,000 goal by the time 2025 is over. And that is ultimately the goal, is to raise as much money for our veterans as possible. You can see down here, if you're ever curious, if you want to see your donation and track them, all the donations are down here. You just got to kind of have to keep hitting show more, and you can see all those people that donated. So we just wanted to say thank you to everybody who came out and supported Heroes for Heroes last weekend. Yeah, sure. That was awesome. We are currently planning, Bigby really got the ball rolling today. We're currently planning a community art stream. Yeah. It is tentatively scheduled for Saturday, July 26th. It's not up on my channel yet. It will be soon. Hopefully, we're working with a bunch of great community artists. A lot of people
so many great.
Yeah.
People are already just some of the stuff that I'm seeing that's going to be donated is really exciting.
Yeah, you might recognize a lot of the names too. Once we have the list finalized, a lot of them will be regular contributors to our community art that we feature here on the show. Also, some fresh faces too, which will be great. In fact, we may even end up doing a couple different community art streams. You know, some things are still to be determined. We're definitely going to have one other auction with original art, prints, comics, that kind of thing. That could be in a slightly different format than we've done. It could be anytime between now and the end of the year, because as people are contacting me and trying to send stuff in, I really want to make sure we try to wrap that stuff in with whatever we're doing to make it as big and cool and successful as we can make it. Right.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the important part is, you know, thanks to Bigby, thanks to, you know, all of our helpers, Travis, Comics Limited, Richard Westfall, Christina Payne, all those people out there that were helping us. We really appreciate it. You all were a huge part of that. And of course, to everybody who donated, everybody who came out and supported the auction. So thank you so much for that, folks. Follow at Heroes for Heroes Comics on IG for future updates about streams. You can also check all those posts on social media. I'm sure Bigby will be on those posts as well, too. So you can just follow it. And I'll make sure to post it on the post on the channel as well. The only other thing I'll say about it is shipping stuff is happening a little bit slower than we anticipated. I'm trying to get the correct stuff to ship with. I will say one thing that did help a lot is we got a bunch of top loaders donated to us, courtesy kind of care of Comics Limited, who works for I Like Comics in Vancouver, Washington. We were able to get a bunch of top loaders for the prints, at least most of them. A couple of them, you know, a few of them are oversized, so we'll ship those out a little bit differently. And I have to kind of scramble to find some packaging for those, but bear with us on the shipping. Comics are doomed. Yeah,
Doom, right? Dr. Doom.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about here, kind of, you know, as we roll into other things. We have a bunch of comic news, a bunch of crazy things happen, but we'll get to that towards the end of the show. CGC is launching an exclusive comic book. That's probably going to be fine, and no one's going to care about that.
No conflict of interest there at all.
We have a couple unfortunate bits where a couple of people that are probably near and dear to a lot of people's hearts did pass away. We're going to talk about that later in the show. And we also have eBay doing some shenanigans with how they're going to end their auctions. And we're going to cover some unfortunate news happening with Dynamite and the Diamond situation, and PSA announcing their grading. If you want to check out some of those topics, were actually covered already by Swaggelhaus. Great channel out there in the comic community. You can go check out some of his videos on that content after the show. But yeah, that's the stuff we're going to cover near the end of the show. And of course, we're going to show off that awesome selection of community artwork we have. But before we do that, the weekend before Heroes for Heroes, we had Washington State SummerCon.
Right.
And on the ride home from the second day, possibly because I was hella tired, we got into a conversation about comic books, and it was a great conversation, but it did get like a little spicy, you know, kind of in terms of like how our conversations are almost always like
get that spicy. That's true. Like, I don't really agree with what you're saying there. So
it got a little impassioned,
which is fine.
Which is no, I mean, when we weren't like yelling at each other, we were just kind of like animated.
There was no animosity. There was just like, well, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying here, you know, is kind of a, you know, like, yeah, we just didn't see eye to eye on everything. So
yeah. Swaggelhaus. Remember the simple times when Key Collector was viewed as the most immoral thing in the hobby? By the way, Key Collector actually sent out an update today. I don't have that in my news story, so let me see if I can pull that up. It was kind of interesting. Key Collector is going to be raising their prices on their subscriptions. The way so they sent out an email that said, you know, it's been 8 years since Key Collector was created. In that time, this is the quote from the email: "We've grown into the most comprehensive comic book resource available." No clarifiers there. That they're just saying that, which seemed odd to me. But for those that are curious, they're raising their price from I believe it's $1.99 a month for premium to $3.99 a month for premium. So that's kind of the big change there, really. But I just thought it was funny how they worded that.
Doubling the price, basically.
They're they're doubling their price. The way they put it, hey, that's the price of one comic book a month, which I mean, to be fair, that if you put it in those terms, yeah, I guess that's true.
I
But
don't know, like most comprehensive though. I mean, like they'd have to get much more accurate with their pricing.
yes, exactly. Oh, and that's, by the way, I should point out, since I'm talking about this, I don't, as much as I'm criticizing that statement, I don't want to offer misinformation. A lot of features are going to remain free. The unlimited catalog, this is just, I'm reading the bullet points on their email here. Unlimited cataloging, key issue categorization, new keys and comics this week, a 500,000 comic database, community contributions, dynamic searching, 600 plus curated categories, and the low, mid, and high pricing. You're going to get access to the key collector price guide which I don't know how that's different versus the low, mid, high pricing, but we'll have to see how that works out.
Okay.
They have something called auto-populated pricing they're going to add, plus all the special, hotkeys and spec deck and the special categories for paid members. So yeah, Swigos brings up a great point. But anyways, getting back to what we were talking about, the topic of the show, I think the start of that conversation was you'd made a comment real fast about X-Men 1, the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont X-Men 1 from the 90s. And about how much it could be worse someday. I think that's how we got on that conversation.
I think we were talking about, because I was comparing it to the way that people who collect sports stuff, there's a whole generation that was not exposed to that stuff being overprinted. They just see it as retro old cards, and so they don't view it the way other people do. And so there's value being built on that because of people seeing it as, I want the 90 hoops Michael Jordan card, even though it's one of the most printed cards out there, right? So we got into talking about that with comics too, and I was saying that intrinsically those are like some of the stuff that was printed in the 90s. There's some of that was just not good quality stuff, but there was some quality stuff like Jim Lee X-Men, and Todd McFarlane Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff. And your counter debate was there's so many copies out there, and then we were talking about survivorship and all that kind of stuff. So we can get into that. But
yeah, so that's kind of what the main topic of the discussion is going to be, and kind of we took that as sort of, it was a very organic conversation. Like that was where we started. We started talking about, survivorship. What are collectors going to look like in the future? And then kind of second order, like we're going to kind of think about, how do things that are happening now, how's that going to change what the comics?
How are things going to evolve? What's the collector base going to look like in the future?
I mean, we're already seeing right now.
There's a lot done back there for sure, but
yeah. It's starting to change. But before we do that, we are going to kind of talk about, the first thing we usually talk about in the show, got a little out of order so far, is kind of what we've been up to and what we've been collecting and what we've been reading and watching and that kind of stuff. Who you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? Which one do you?
So do you want to show like things we've picked up recently? Like I show this A-OK.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you want to, so why don't you do that first?
Because check this out. This was from my friend Brandon over at Mon Comics. This is Joe Jusco. He's a local artist up there for him.
Oh, cool.
And, this is the Chromium set that came out just recently. And he brought a stack of these for his friends to get signed. And Jusco was like, these are the only ones of these that I will ever sign. You didn't know any better, but they didn't pay me for these. I will not sign any other ones.
Wow. Wow.
So I was like, holy crap. So
that's
I've got
cool.
Something that he may never sign another one of these. So.
Yeah. Or he tells every single person that he says that he signs that he says that to.
Right. Yeah. And then I got a cool letter in the mail from Steve Driscoll, who shares art with us every week. And he gave me some of his bikini babes. Have you seen Brian? No, not lately. Nope. So at the beach scene there. And then
nice.
He started drawing because of our show, and one of his first drawings he did was of me. So he sent me the drawing of me. So
right on.
Yeah, so it's got it's important to encourage the creation of art, whatever the medium.
That's cool.
So
Nice.
thank you, Stevie. Or Stevie D. Comics with Stevie D is his YouTube channel. And then my friend Hagen from Lettuce Comics, I was toying with the idea of going to Heroes Con this year, and I wasn't able to go. And just out of the blue, I got a package, and everybody that went that he could get signed, including Christina. Christina's autographs on there, signed a program for me.
That's really cool.
Yeah, got Roscoe on there, and Christina, and
nice.
Oh, a whole bunch of people. Who else we got on there? Just Rob's Fat Stacks, Digger Jim, Broke Boy Comics, Comic Vet. So
wow.
Yeah, the whole, I got the who's who of comics signing this thing here. So very cool. Thank you, Hagen. I really appreciate that. It's going to go in a special place in my collection. Got an awesome little letter about how he missed me and hopes to see me in another one soon. So thank you so much for that. And then, that's and then I got some monetary things, but those other things are even cooler than that. But
monetary things like money,
like things I paid money for.
Oh, okay.
So I think I mentioned that Son of Crom was having a little sale, so I picked this up. First appearance of The Living Mummy from him. So kind of cool.
Very cool.
And then the first appearance in comics of the Man Thing. So
nice.
Got that from him. And then the first appearance of Tigra from him. So
very cool.
Some cool slabs. And then I won't show them, but I got 3 omnibus of the Golden Age Superman volume 1, 2, and 3. So that was pretty cool. But
very cool.
There we go. So that's stuff I've picked up, and then I've been reading the Scott Pilgrim box set that I got from the Hero.
Oh yeah.
Thing, which is it weird that the thing that I'm jazzed about the most out of that is the Sex Bomb poster. It's just this plain poster you would see on a light pole, just of plain text of Sex Bomb, and I'm that's super cool to me, the concert poster. So
no, that's awesome. I mean, that's I love that movie, and I would be jazzed about that as well.
Yeah. Hey, Erwin.
Hey, what's up, Erwin? And S. Vaughn coming in the house.
Hey.
Appreciate that. Trying to think if we missed anybody else here. It's tough for me to figure out if we missed anybody because I wasn't here the first couple minutes. But oh boy, at least 20.
Yeah.
and one Espo bomb.
Punching and kicking. Yeah, it was bad.
So you've been reading the Scott Pilgrim. That's cool.
Yeah, it was the color box set, Razor.
Right on.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really neat. I'm enjoying it. So that thing is so cool.
I guess before we get to watching and reading, for sure, I'll show off my stuff so I can not have the large screen anymore because I hate that. Personally, I don't like having the focus on me. I will show my first thing is my Heroes for Heroes pickup. I got this nice kind of mid-grade copy of Strange Tales 179, First Pip the Troll.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, that was donated by Magic Geeks Comics. So appreciate their donation. Thanks everybody for bidding hard on that. Sorry, I was the one that walked away with it.
That's nothing to be sorry about. There was some spirited bidding on that one.
Yeah. It's a really beat up copy, but I got this from producer Kyle over at the EXP a long while ago. He finally was able to get it sent over to me. It's a beat up copy of X-Men 7. So this is now officially my lowest numbered X-Men issue, but yeah, it's low grade, and we both knew that getting into it. But hey, I'm trying to collect them all, just like Pokemon. What's that?
Cyclops front and center there.
Cyclops front and center, yeah. Second blob, right? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The second Brotherhood also, right?
Yeah. Let's see, and then yes. Oh, speaking of stuff I got from producer Kyle, one other book I'll show off. I got First Kilowog.
Nice.
And that is a high grade copy. And I already filed it away. I pulled a Saga one from him as well, but I put that in a different box. So I guess I was too organized for once.
Darn it.
And then just some random other stuff I got. I got an order in from Economics and Comics. Love this Nakayama cover.
That's great.
Yeah. So I
Love
had to
it.
get that one. And it's like just a little bit more going on than some of his covers he's done recently too, with a couple characters. You know, it's a good action pose. Let's see what I can show here and not get in trouble. I had to like be selective. Got the Adam Hughes Pop Kill 3. I think, you know, technically that's censored, so that's fine.
Pasty on there.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then so I'm gonna talk a little bit about Dynamite Comics later in the show, and I kind of made a post yesterday about supporting Dynamite Comics because they're going through some stuff right now. So if you order some new comics from Dynamite, I would recommend it. I picked up some stuff recently. I got this Mark Spears J. Scott Campbell homage. It's a foil version, so it's a little hard to make it show up on camera, but it's that ASM 601 Mary Jane homage.
Sitting on the couch. Yep.
Yeah, it's really hard to make it show up clearly without just being glare. But it is a great cover. Awesome. And I got a couple different flavors of that, but the foil was the cool one. And then this is actually a great homage too, and it's something that's been coming up a lot. You might have seen a story on my Instagram about Ben Taz's Dave Stevens Planet Comics #1 homage he did for us. He did a series of prints. Well, this is Vampirella 2. This is a Chatzudas cover, but this is a Planet Comics homage.
Oh, cool.
I'd call it. It's close enough to me. Got the bike and everything.
Right. Yep.
Booty cover, you know.
Right.
You know how I roll. And then, yeah, this is the one I can't show. I picked up one other one. It's Vampirella 2 as well. This is the Perillo cover. I'll show it like that.
You showed that much.
Yeah, I can show that much.
You need my arts and crafts skills to quickly craft you a brassiere.
If it wasn't for the tech issues, I would have made a post-it brassiere. Yeah. And then let's see. As far as what I've been reading, mostly I've been reading the Expanse novels. I'm on book 3 now. I finished the second one last night. And then I've been reading Percy Jackson to my daughter, and we just started book 4 of the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. That's mostly what I've been reading.
You enjoying those?
She's loving those. I'm loving the Expanse books. It's just been a lot of novels and stuff recently. I haven't had time to read a whole lot of comic books. I did try to get caught up on. I was reading some Geiger, and I was reading some Transformers. Or no, I wasn't. I was reading Void Rivals, Geiger. I read some Redcoat, some of the Ghost Machine stuff, basically, and some of the Skybound stuff. I'm waiting to read more Transformers until she's ready to read some with me, but she's been too into Percy Jackson. That's all she's been requesting. So, yeah.
Awesome Sauce says, please describe the book you're not willing to show.
Sure. Hey, you know what, Awesome Sauce? I'll give you the best description I can of it. So it's a Vampirella 2 cover by Lucio Perillo. It's Vampirella on a grisly looking stump that has a giant eyeball on the bottom of it. I'll show the chat that little grisly looking stump so they can kind of see what I'm talking about down there on the bottom. And she's got some little winged demons that she's holding, one in her hand, and there's a couple other flying up from tendrils, but she is topless. But she's wearing her iconic Vampirella logo underoos. We'll put it that way.
There you go.
And then let's see what else. I guess I'll start with watching. The biggest thing I watched is I went to go see Jurassic World Rebirth with the Copper Age Babe, my wife, yesterday. Went up to Olympia and
how many stars? How many stars?
Out of 5?
Yeah.
I'd go 3.5 stars out of 5.
3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, she liked it a lot more than I did. Spoiler free, don't worry, everybody. I'll just say the human characters weren't as interesting to me as some of the other, especially the original or even the first Jurassic World movie. I thought Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard were pretty interesting, and I thought the kids were pretty interesting in that movie. And And yeah, I think most of these characters fell short. Scarlett Johansson was amazing. Like I'm a big fan of hers. She did great. My wife thought she did great. But yeah, I'd say that there's good action, good dinosaur stuff. If you're going just for that, you're not going to be disappointed with that part of it. Yeah, huge grossing movie. And I saw that Scarlett Johansson is now the top grossing actor by film of all time, apparently, after this movie, beating out Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Pratt and Samuel L. Jackson. And the only person to not be in an MCU film that's in the top 5 is Tom Hanks. So,
there you go.
Should you watch this or go see Jurassic tonight? Well, I would recommend watching this, but if my wife was talking to you, she'd probably say go see Jurassic World. Because then she's like, I could have free reign of the house and do whatever I want and play Fortnite.
There you go.
Whatever. Which, by the way, she can do now, I guess, technically. Hey, good choice. Good choice.
Dinosaurs or bears.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, it's fun. It's there's a scene in it that, as a fan of the novel, I was glad they included, because it's kind of a callback to a novel scene that wasn't in the first book.
Okay.
And I'm interested to see if they, and I'm sure that Jurassic World Rebirth is soft reboot written all over it, so I'm sure there'll be future movies. I'm excited to see what else they do with it. Hey, there you go. They've made enough. No, I'm glad that it's being successful, and we're talking about going to see Fantastic Four First Steps as kind of our next film, and Superman. I'm interested to see Superman. She's not really, so I'll probably try to figure out a way to sneak off and watch it with friends or watch it by myself at some point, but it's not going to be opening weekend or anything. So,
Gotcha.
Unfortunately. So yeah, what about you? What have you been into?
Let's see. I watched The Ballerina the other night. That was pretty good. And Final Destination Bloodlines. Ballerina's the John Wick one, right?
Yep. Anna Narvis.
Rewatched Thunderbolts. Legend of Ochi. That was okay. Good. And
yeah, that is true. Tropes. That's exactly what I do. But it has to be from Sydney Sweeney. You have to buy her bathwater, and then you get the special unlock where you get her poop and you throw it in. Hey, thanks for the super chat there, Swaglehouse. We appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, buddy.
That's really awesome.
And then I finished up watching Ironheart. So yeah.
Oh, should we? You know what, man? That's out there. We can probably talk about that, right?
Yeah, it's been done for over a week now, a week and a half.
Yeah. So some great movies there. I haven't actually seen most of those, but they're on my queue at home. But when it comes to Ironheart,
maybe it's only been done for a week, but it's been done.
So hey, we're gonna spoil at least some of the ending of Ironheart that there's been about 100 articles posted about, and memes and all kinds of stuff. So I think we're fine to talk about it.
Tropes, if you like the first 3 episodes, the final 3 are a better payoff than the first 3. So yes, you will enjoy it.
I think that at this point, this is basically, it's just who's playing somebody. That's really it. We'll give everybody a few seconds to kind of dip. I'll just tell the opening of the story, and then we'll talk about it for probably a couple minutes, and you can come back. So Bigby had finished it and was telling me, like, hey, do you want to, do you care about spoilers? I said, no, I'm not going to watch it unless my household kind of wants to watch it, and then I'll watch along with them. And he said, oh, you should probably watch the last episode. And so I fired up the last episode. He kind of gave me a little bit of a recap, and I watched it. And so why don't you tell me what your thoughts are before I go off on what I found out about
it? Overall about the show, or about that last episode?
I'd say mostly about the last episode.
The last episode I thought was awesome. I really enjoyed it a lot. I don't really like the character of Riri, but all the background characters around her I liked a lot.
Okay.
Obadiah Stane, really liked him a lot.
Wait, is it Obadiah Stane or is it something Junior?
Or no, it's Zeke Stane. That's
Okay.
right. Ezekiel Stain. Zeke Stain. Really liked his character a lot. And actually, the Hood character grew on me. I thought he was pretty well done, actually. And then they had some other background characters. The Zelma character, I thought she was pretty cool, which she kind of
Zelma
appeared in, like,
Stanton from Doctor Strange.
yeah, she kind of appeared in like earlier, like episode 4 or something. But yeah, she's kind of a port over magic user character, which we're going to try. I guess we're mashing up magic and tech, so that was kind of cool. But
Apparently,
yeah, I mean, I thought the final episode was really good and kind of eyebrow raising. The ending of it, I don't know if I want to give away everything.
well, there's only one thing. I mean, I don't care about the recap of the show because, quite honestly, it looked like a shitty show to me.
Right.
That's just me. Whatever. I want to talk about Mephisto, man.
Yeah. Okay. So Mephisto shows up, which was really awesome. I thought that he was super well done. Sacha Baron Cohen did a great job. And Bronze was. I said something about Mephisto, and Bronze is like, "Oh, haven't you seen this?" And he sends me these pictures of Sacha Baron Cohen in red makeup and everything, and I'm like, "Dude, that's all got to be AI because he was not in the red makeup." And then he spotted something. So I'll let you say what you spotted.
Well, first of all, the image I sent you, I guess, had been going around, I think, on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
And it was posted in my Discord, and it looked like just bad enough quality where it was believable because it could have been like a bad screen rip or something, like a screen grab or whatever from somebody that had access to it, maybe. So I was like, all right, it's possible that's him. And it did look like once I figured out who the actor was supposed to be, like, oh, it kind of looks like him. But yeah, so just to not bury the lead, Sacha Baron Cohen is our new Mephisto in the MCU after years of Mephisto being rumored since like WandaVision with the first Disney Plus series, right? Yeah. And now he's finally here. I thought he was absolutely interesting as the character. I guess I'll say that. Like, I mean, he was, when he was on screen, he was the only thing I was paying attention to for sure.
Right. No, he was definitely a commanding presence on the screen. Yeah. I thought he played that character amazingly well.
What am I sure about? What am I sure? Still, was it not? Oh, geez, did I screw something up? So, waiting for Tim Robinson to show up in the MCU. Tim Robinson. Why do I not know that name? I
don't know that name either. So that makes 2 of us. So you got to enlighten us.
Yeah, he was very nice.
He was very nice. Yeah.
That's
he did. He did. I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to live that down, that character of Borat, but he's done some amazing work outside of that stuff. So,
well, I've been a fan of his ever since the Ali G show back in the day, and just, I mean, unfortunately, I think he kind of got pigeonholed a little bit by Borat and the other character whose name I'm blanking on right now. He did, but yeah, whatever. I think he did a great job. It was fun to see him. I think he's an interesting casting choice. He's capable of being a good actor. Like, he's proven that.
I've seen him in some really good other roles. So yeah, I mean,
real quick. The reason you probably know Tim Robinson, you ever seen that meme where the guy's like, "You sure about that?"
Oh, that's right. Okay, I know who that is. Now, I know him, like, he's a comedian and stuff. I just forgot that that's what his name was. He has a very forgettable name to me. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. You sure about that? But what was it? But why did you say you sure about that? That's what I'm curious about.
Because Erwin Papa said,
okay.
Yeah.
I see it now. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something. In my head, I'm like, did I mess up what the first Disney Plus show was? He does. He's our meme spurt. That's not the right way to say that. Meme expert. But yeah, so the thing I spotted, so I had that leak in my mind, and Mephisto ostensibly just appears as Sacha Baron Cohen. Like, he says I go by many names, kind of leaves it at that. But
he does finally say, "You can call me Mephisto."
No. But he doesn't appear as like a demonic form, is what I'm saying.
Oh, not yet.
Except he does. There's a blink and you'll miss it shot where he's eating. He might even be eating cereal or soup. I can't remember. and he has a spoon, and then they show a quick shot of the spoon, and on the back of the spoon you see a spoon, you see a reflection of him as the red makeup Mephisto, which is pretty cool.
That was really awesome that they slipped that in there.
Yeah. Anyways, I just thought that was neat. I think the question got asked earlier. Wonder what he's going to show up next in the MCU as, or where he's going to show up next in the MCU, I should say. Do you have a thought on that?
I'm wondering if he's going to show up in the somehow play a role in the Doomsday stuff somehow.
Right.
But
I mean, that's what I was wondering too. I don't know. I don't remember.
Like make a deal with the heroes, last ditch to defeat Doom or something.
I have to reread like Secret Wars and stuff like that because I haven't read it in a long time, but I don't remember him having a role in that.
Oh, that'd be cool, Richard. I hope he appears. Remember, Thanos comes back from the dead with Mephisto in Surfer.
Wow.
So that would be cool. That would be really
cool.
Yeah,
FF. That's interesting. Yeah, there's a leak. I mentioned it to Comics Limited and Bigby the night of Heroes for Heroes. There's a leak about what could be the ending of FF. I won't say it here. It may not be true, but it's one of those ones that I think has more possibility of being true because it makes sense from a plot standpoint. It actually kind of rings true as what could kind of be next in the MCU after FF. But yeah, it's interesting. Right. Yeah, with Doom's mom. That would be okay.
Good call. The whole thing, right? Doom keeps wanting to go and rescue this mom's soul from Mephisto.
Doom's got mommy issues.
It's true. So.
But yeah, so I guess we'll probably, for those that we're trying to fast forward on the rewind or whatever, that's pretty much it for the movie.
One other thing, the book that I told you I thought was going to do okay was on the hot list this week. It says average sale is $10 now. So,
and that's Doctor Strange 1 from like 2016 or something. I can't remember when that came out, but that's the Chris Bachalo cover, which at one point I had like 10 copies of, and I have one of them signed by Chris Bachalo back there, and yeah, I don't know, that one's for my PC. The rest I don't know.
Of Zelma. So if you guys watch the show, that's her first appearance. So.
Yep, it has another like minor key significance to it. I can't remember what character, but it's a fun book. I guess Strange Academy is doing pretty well too, from what I saw, which she plays a role in Strange Academy, and there's a lot of rumors about Strange Academy coming to the MCU.
Bigby's crystal balls strike again.
Wait a minute. Could Doom's mom be Sydney Sweeney? Look, it's a stretch, but I missed seeing the video last week. I mean, could be Sydney Sweeney. I mean, we are talking about Sydney Sweeney.
Their own show.
And that really, all that means is it destroys all of our hopes that Sydney Sweeney was going to play Mephisto in the MCU. But
that's true. Yep.
Roy Thomas is going to cry himself to sleep tonight.
So somebody needs to message Tropes now that he can come back.
Yes, we're safe again. So with that said, we should probably get into our main topic, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to message Tropes real quick. You go ahead and cue it up for us.
So like we talked about at the beginning of the show, we did have a discussion coming back from SummerCon about kind of the future of comic book collecting and what that's going to mean. And I guess what I'll do, the best way for me to talk about this is to kind of just sum up my opinion, or my position, I guess you could call it. My position is that comic collecting is becoming... Okay, let me back this up a little bit. My mom's parents were antique collectors.
Mm-hmm.
And even before they passed away, there was kind of like this move away from antiques. Antique furniture, depression glass, some of it's still valuable, don't get me wrong, but it's become less and less desirable as the people that were interested in some of those pieces have passed away or aged out of wanting to acquire things. Now you have a modern movement too. You kind of saw a resurgence, some of that stuff. Now you have a modern movement of minimalism where people are trying to have as few possessions as possible and trying not to be hoarders or have too much clutter in their house or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
We've seen with a lot of different things that people eventually, once that age bracket that is into that thing have kind of moved on, you start to see some interest dry up in those things. That's not a universal truth, but it's something that I do notice is true. I've wondered how this is going to play out with comic books, because with comic books, some of the characters still have a lot of significance to people. Like Spider-Man is still very significant to probably at this point millions of not tens of not hundreds of millions of people who have never read a comic book.
Right.
Superman is still relevant, Batman is still relevant, you know, etc. Right? Iron Man's going to be relevant now at this point. But inevitably, you know, think about people like Bigby and myself. We're of a certain age. Safe to say, probably 40 years from now, we're not going to be collecting comic books, at least not on the same level we are now.
Right. That's true.
Right.
And I can kind of, I would even like equate a lot of what you're saying to like maybe even stamps and coins. They were a lot more popular, prevalent in like the 80s. When I first started collecting comics, there was a coin and stamp shop where I would go through, you know, dollar bins and stuff. They were 50-cent bins or whatever, right?
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Roscoe? Thanks for joining the show, man. Glad to see you here. Same with you, Figure Drawing. Glad you could be here. So it's just kind of one of those things where I see this future where we have fewer and fewer young comic book readers. It's hard for me to imagine a universe like, so we go back to the example of X-Men 1 from the early 90s, and this is kind of where my opinion comes from. I have a hard time believing that one of, if not the highest comic book printed of all time, regardless of how many copies might still be out there, it's still going to be millions. I have a hard time believing that that comic book is ever going to become truly rare or valuable in comparison to its peers, because there's just, at this point, anybody who's truly interested in that book already has one. And it's not like they're hiding in their closet without a bag and board. Like, they're probably in a bag and board, if not slabbed in some cases, you know, hanging out and just waiting to be passed on to their children. Because you can make the argument, oh, well, their children will have some nostalgia for that because of their parents collecting. That's not necessarily true, but in some cases it would happen. But they're probably going to get the comic book anyway, and you know, maybe they'll sell it or not care about it. I'd have a hard time buying that comic book is ever going to become looked at in the same way that like an ASM 300 even would be at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like an ASM 300, but like my argument was that every year that goes by, we have new generations of, I mean, albeit there are less, and I kind of encourage a lot of people to please try to encourage young people to collect. I give away free comics to my friends' children and people at work for their kids all the time. But you know, it's and I was really happy to hear that one of them was going to become a comic book collector. And you know, those children do love those characters, you know, Spider-Man and Batman and all of these guys. And but I think like we're already seeing it with like the McFarlane Spider-Man #1, also millions and millions of copies out there, but it's becoming a more valuable book. It's gradually gone from being an 8 to a 10 to a 12 to a 15 to a $20 book. You know, so it's gradually creeping its way up there, and it's going to become, as those new generations come in, it's not something that they were exposed to as this is, oh my God, there's millions of copies. Albeit there will still be millions of copies out there. They won't have a hard time getting it, but it will be that these people have just held on to it for so long. Now, also, but then you've also got to take into account economics, right? Like, what's a $20 bill going to be worth? You know, is a $20 bill going to be the equation of a $5 bill right now?
Right.
You know, so there's that too, right?
I mean, I think for the purpose of this conversation, we have to assume that even when we talk about future value, we're talking about adjusted for inflation. What we're talking about is today's dollars, right? Like,
right,
you know.
right. Mm-hmm.
So and yeah, by the way, I'll even add fuel to your fire in that perspective. I mean, Spawn 1 is also a highly printed book that also regularly goes for $20 or a little bit north of that, depending on quality or depending on, especially a newsstand would be worth more because there's less than those, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
Yeah,
just,
and
I'm just
Chad
saying,
brings
like,
up
it's not going to be. I think we went to both ends when we were talking about. We went to both ends of the spectrum, like it going to absolute zero versus it going up in value. It was like, well, how many people out there are going to really even care about that anymore? And so it was kind of like we went both ways.
and the reason I didn't really put a bow on it, the reason I bring up like Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, I'm not saying I don't think those comics are going to become relatively worthless because they have almost like a art collector type of vibe around them. They're sold at auction, they're reported on. They're like a Mickey Mantle rookie card.
Right.
There's not very many people alive collecting baseball cards. I'm sorry if you're one of the ones if I say this. There's not many people alive that are collecting baseball cards that saw Mickey Mantle's rookie year, right? There's just not. But that card is still extremely valuable. But my point is that Will Clark's rookie card from the Junk Wax era is not very valuable, and yet he was a big prospect at the time. Or you can even say, Bo Jackson or even King Griffey Jr. His card is especially like his upper deck rookie.
You want to compare like Hall of Fame players like Greg Maddux,
yeah,
King Griffey Jr.,
yeah,
Frank Thomas,
sure.
These guys that had amazing careers that set benchmarks for baseball and a lot of things, but they were a victim. Their cards were a victim of the era that they were playing during.
Right, and though and it's not just to say that it's apples to apples with those, but I'm just saying there's a cap. Those cards have grown in value, but they're not approaching anywhere near the ultra modern, refractors and parallels and all that kind of stuff that you see, or the vintage, truly vintage stuff in baseball card collecting. And I think with comic books, you're going to see something similar. If it's from anything older, Copper era or older, I think that it has a lot of potential depending on the book. And depending on how popular those characters remain in pop culture. If it's from the 90s, and it's especially we're talking like an X-Men 1, even the Spider-Man 1, even that Spawn 1, X-Force with the freaking Deadpool rookie card. I don't care what comic you grab. When you're talking about a 90s comic with a print run in the millions, most of those comics survived. And most people, there's people that wanted that comic to have a short box of that comic.
Yeah, no, that's
or long boxes.
That's a block I bought when I used to do shows when, like I told you, when I was the bubblegum guy and everything. I bought 300 copies of X-Men #1 when it came out.
Yeah. And it really, I just want to hit on the point. I'm not saying that those comics are ever going to be truly valueless, like as in literally worth zero. I don't see that happening.
Right.
Like Awesome Sauce points out, X-Force 1 goes for $10. I mean, it can. I've also seen it go for 50 cents in bins still to these days, but yeah, it can go for $10.
Depends to the right buyer.
Yeah.
But I think that my point of view is that, like I said, that there's more and more people going to be, as time marches on, there's going to be people that bronze and copper age to them is going to be the equivalent of the 90s, whether we like it or not. That's what's going to be. It's going to become an era that's so far removed from where we are now that people go, well, that's 40 years old or whatever, that was so far before I was born. I have to look at it with nostalgia. This is something that my dad read or something, and so I think people will look at it that way. I mean, I know you're going to argue the other way,
Brian. X-Men 1 is 35 years old.
Right. I know
already.
I'm getting there. Yeah,
it's already 35 years old.
Right. No, I get you.
Go ahead. I'm just saying, like, you can say 40 years old. So in 5 years,
50, 60 years old, whatever. But you know what I'm saying.
Okay, we're moving the goalpost. Got
it. I would compare it to, okay, there was a Magic the Gathering set that was printed back in the day, back in the 90s. They warned people that there used to be, when you would order if you wanted 10 boxes, you had to order 100. And that was just the way the allocation game. And they warned people this set will be printed to order. It's called Fallen Empires. And people didn't believe them. And so when the day came when that set came out, they had 300, 400 boxes sitting on their shop door. And they were like, there was a moment in time where you could buy those boxes for $10 a box. But right now, I looked it up today, they're $400 plus a box now. So it's like,
so the difference being though that Magic the Gathering is in a much healthier and stronger place today than comic books are for collecting.
You think so?
I do think so.
Okay.
I think collectible card games at this point are in a much healthier spot in general than comic books are. Is in terms of their fan base. And I mean, I guess I just would point out the number of comic book shops I see that also sell Magic cards.
Yeah.
Versus the number of shops I see that are gaming shops that don't sell comic books.
This is true.
Now, I'm not trying to say look, folks, a lot of people are going to hear what I'm saying and they're going to take it personally. And I get that. It's not an indictment of comic book fans and collectors. I'm one of you. It's just the reality of the situation is that we are getting, if we're not getting smaller, we're treading water in terms of how many like actual avid readers we have out there. We've talked about this in other shows. We've talked about it in the past. You've heard about it talked in other shows. Some of you have your own opinions on it. You don't like what's happening in comics these days. You don't like current storylines. You don't like variants. You don't like exclusives. You don't like graded comic books. You don't like collectability. You don't like blind bags. Everybody out there has their what they don't like about the comic book industry right now, with a few exceptions of people that are just like, yes, give me it all. There's some of those out there. And that's kind of, in one hand, that's a good sign that people have strong opinions about what's going on in comic books. But on the other hand, it's rare to see comics these days that are excelling because of their story. It does happen. Absolute Batman, for example, is a kind of a recent example I can just pull out of the thin air. That is great. That's absolutely awesome when it happens. But it actually is almost like a news story when a really good new comic book comes out that everybody wants to jump on, not for collectability in terms of just flipping and spec and value and all those things. And that is not a healthy sign, in my opinion. That's just kind of where I land on that.
Some good points being made in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. One I wanted to go back to real fast and just talk about is Derek's comment a little while ago. Look at the resurgence of vinyl and VHS, even amongst kids who have never grew up with them. Yeah, and that could happen. That could happen.
And I've got some notes here for some stuff about the nostalgia of physical books and almost becoming like a curiosity or a cool retro thing when we're going to digital media, and then people all said, it's always the thing where everybody's like poo-pooing on, and they're moved past it, and they're going to the kids are going to the thrift shop and stuff, right, and everything to find the stuff, and then it becomes the cool thing again. So
then again, if you're going to take Derek's opinion, remember he does collect uranium glass and does make his parts tingle. So no, uranium glass is pretty interesting.
There's a little shop here in town that has some of it. I was like, ooh, does that set off the Geiger counter? She goes, yes, it does.
Shigeyuki says, do you think that that will happen with coin and stamp market after the boomers depart? Will be comic books canary in the coal mine of its future? Yeah, I mean,
I don't think you're ever going to have like nobody collecting coins and stamps,
right?
And that's the same thing with comics. And I think things are going to evolve. It's going to change the way that people read comics and collect comics. And I've kind of got some notes on that too. So, I mean, yeah.
And Swag chimes in, I think legacy keys will always have value. Question is, which keys will get that distinction? I'd argue ASM 300 or an X-Men 266 has a better chance to be that than a lot of random silver keys. Yeah, there's probably some random silver keys for sure. I could agree with that. And again, I think that there's a direct correlation. I think we're seeing it happen right now where it wasn't like this collecting in the 80s and 90s. it's much more focused on the character. It's much more focused on the popularity and the pop culture impact of the character. The more they have, generally speaking, the more popular and more valuable that comic book is. You know, kind of like what Swag is saying there in the chat. You look at characters like Deadpool, who have, you know, Deadpool's a household name at this point. His comic book is valuable and desirable.
Right.
You know, and I mean, that's a good comparison. Like New Mutants 98 had to have been a heavily printed book. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I think it was like 500,000 or something like that. I can't remember. Maybe it was like 2.5 million. I don't even know. But it was a healthy, large number for the time. Yet, you know, that comic book is still very valuable because of the cultural impact of that character. And that's what, when it comes to X-Men, especially when we get to the example of X-Men 1 from the 90s, that's where, to me, it gets like, that's just what triggers the back of my brain going, I don't know about that, because the cultural significance of just a later volume of X-Men to people who want to collect X-Men 50 years from now or whatever, I don't know that that's really going to be the book that they're going to want to gravitate towards.
But I'm going to liken it to like also the works of like great artists too. So people are going to look back on like we look back on a Neil Adams right now. People are going to look back on a Jim Lee. So they're going to be like, this is one of his benchmark books that he made, you know. So there's that.
There is that. I mean, it does make you wonder what the book in the legacy of Jim Lee will end up being in the really long view of comic books, right? Like it you know, is it going to be something like what is it, the second printing of the first appearance of Hush, that's the Batman cover, where it's like the profile shot, you know, will it be something like that? It does make you wonder.
Right. What's going to be like, what are going to be the benchmark books of the covers that he is like most famous for? Yeah. But
awesome sauce. Now you're talking about some World War III shit. Like, I don't know, man. That would definitely be a monkey wrench in the plans. That reminds, there's a fascinating book about an EMP that I'll recommend, called 1 Second After. It was written, supposedly, it was written by somebody who helped prepare some of the Pentagon's plans for what would happen in an EMP attack. And it's a fascinating read if you go to read it, because it does start to make you think about how literally how effed we would be if a nuclear bomb happened. We would be almost even more effed if an EMP attack happened, like on one of the coasts.
Not just EMP attack. You can get EMP also from the sun. So
yeah, you can. Yeah, absolutely. But more likely, I definitely recommend reading the book. I'll leave the EMP talk to that.
Yeah.
And like Swaggle says, money, like especially when you're talking about like silver content or gold content, that kind of stuff in coins.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, I think that's legit.
Derek. But hey, more uranium glass.
Upside. But
so, yeah, so I had some like some notes, like I said, the nostalgia of physical books, the curiosity of like a cool artifact, like he was saying, like people getting into vinyl and VHS again, you know. I also think we're going to start seeing more and more hybrid collectors, which are kind of like what you are, like where you're a physical collector and a digital collector, where you're reading all your books digitally, but you're collecting physical media. So, and then you're also collecting for covers more than anything a lot of times. So on the newer stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think like the growth of other media other medium of comics, like manga, and then like we're seeing like I've like Scholastic Books is one of the biggest producers of comics material. Even though,
I think
like,
it's the biggest producer.
It's the biggest producer of comics material. And so like you think like books like and this may be, you know, Bigby's crystal balls again, but like books like Bone and stuff like that, these are books that are going to be shown and fed to the younger generations. And I was going to, that right along with Deadpool, I was say newer characters like Miles and Gwen, and Invincible, and that kind of stuff. So
definitely,
there's
I'm right there with you.
Generating new fans, generating new memories of characters that people are going to be involved in, even past when you and I are dead and gone.
Sure.
So,
By the way, let's just talk about that for a second. I just want to make sure I completely agree that those characters and characters like that, Squirrel Girl, is getting popular because of Marvel Rivals. She was popular kind of in her own right, but
right.
Things like Marvel Rivals are attracting people into comic books. But I do wonder how many people are fans of Squirrel Girl and then end up reading comic books or then end up collecting comic books that weren't already doing it. I mean, I picked up a Squirrel Girl first appearance at SummerCon, and I've been looking for it for a while. But, I guess you could add me into the data point now of like, I'm somebody who went out there and picked up a post Marvel Rivals first appearance of Squirrel Girl.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, that definitely could be happening out there. And I completely admit that those pop culture characters are going to continue to grow in popularity, or at least be in the public zeitgeist.
Yeah, you might be seeing that in video games and movies and everything, and that could encourage people to go back and start collecting comics.
Definitely.
And definitely have a soft spot for that. So,
by the way, Awesome Sauce, I pasted in a Wikipedia link to uranium glass, so you can go check that out and kind of find out what it is. It's probably faster than us explaining it on the air.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. What was your next point?
Oh, I was going to just Bigby's crystal balls. I was going to be, we're talking about characters that important, staying power, not very undervalued. I would argue Bishop and Psylocke. Comparative to a lot of stuff that people are putting their money into. I'm like, those two characters not real expensive for their first
appearance. It's so crazy, especially with Bishop, because I feel like Psylocke, especially if you factor in the first appearance of Betsy Braddock, because that's a little bit different scenario.
I think the Revenge character is kind of the one that everybody thinks of as Psylocke, the Psylocke ninja. But I mean, Betsy Braddock, definitely. So both versions,
right? But I'm just saying that I think that Bishop especially has always been a book that it's almost criminal how cheap the first appearance of Bishop is. Which, by the way, when I say first appearance of Bishop, I'm talking about Uncanny X-Men 281. But 282 is also really, really overlooked. And I'm throwing that out there for people that may not realize that if you think Hulk 180 is the first appearance of Wolverine, then Uncanny X-Men 281 is the first appearance of Bishop.
Well, and that's, what is it they always say? The market has spoken.
And just, I mean, literally, some people are still probably not understanding. Bishop appears and says his name on the final panel of X-Men 281. Exactly.
But he's on the cover all over the place.
On 282, right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, he's on 281, the cover. It's him and the other two guys, right?
No, that's 282.
Is he in the... Wait a minute.
Yeah, he's in the final panel on 281.
Okay, so the one with him and Storm is the one that everybody always says, oh, the first...
Wait a minute. I'm so sorry. I'm mistaken here. He's on the cover and he's on the final panel. I'm so sorry.
He's on the cover and the final panel of that issue
of 282 and 283. He's throughout the entire issue of the whole thing. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
It's all good. It's all good. I was like, wait, am I confused? Wait, what am I missing?
That not only am I trying to start a war, I'm trying to confuse them, Jay.
Oh, Richard drops a good one too there. First Apocalypse is criminally undervalued. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird how it went up for a while. It's that the Apocalypse movie that came out when the Fox universe was going. That movie just ruined the value of Apocalypse.
But we're going to see him again, a new version.
Sure.
Of him, and it's going to be much better. So
yep. And my only hope is that whenever that happens, is that they include the rogue scene with Apocalypse. That's the only condition I have.
The rogue. Oh, yes, that scene. We need that scene. That is integral to the storyline of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of criminally under. I mean, Mr. Sinister too, right? I mean,
yep. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. A lot of them are X characters too. It's what we're learning.
That's funny. Well, because it's really weird that we've talked about this whole thing about people not wanting to create new characters. So we're seeing a lot of variation on a theme of already existing characters.
Yeah.
But with the X-Men characters, we still were seeing new characters being invented by Claremont during that time period.
Yeah. And it is also interesting too, as kind of just a tangent, but like the characters, especially the villains that were created, like I've always thought the X-Men have a very interesting rogues gallery. It's not, it's like outside of Magneto, of course, and then you have Apocalypse. They've powered up some of the other villains, but most of them really weren't super powerful in the modern sense. Like you have Juggernaut, who's like for a Silver Age character is really powerful, right? But in the modern sense, the Hulk bitch slaps him on a regular basis, right? Like he's nothing exciting in those terms. And I love Juggernauts. So, but it's just funny because they've obviously converted a lot of their characters, including Juggernaut, Sabretooth, White Queen, have been converted to kind of heroes or anti-heroes at different points. It's interesting.
Put some respect on Blob's name.
hey. I tried to put some respect on Blob's name by picking that up, Swaglass. The second appearance of Blob right there. Just pick that up.
I would say like Sentinels.
Yeah.
Which again powered up to the point of like where you got Nimrod and everything, right? So I mean,
sure. I guess it's funny because Sentinels to me, in my head, I always shortcut that to that's really humans. That's really humans and their animosity and bigotry towards mutants, right? Like, I mean, yes, of course, they're a real villain, but it's just like their manifestation of their hatred for mutants. So I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get too. I absolutely hate the Juggernaut, man. Yeah, absolutely can't stand him.
Didn't you just got that, didn't you? Like the first Juggernaut?
Yeah, I'm being hella facetious right now. He's probably just on a sheer fanboy level. He's probably like my second favorite X-Men villain, just because I love the old fights in the cartoons and in the comics when they'd have a big old slugfest with Juggernaut in town or whatever. That stuff was great. Magneto is obviously the undisputed GOAT of all X-Men villains, I think. But and I always thought Apocalypse was like the dark horse, underrated. Should have been the most powerful X-Men villain. They kind of in the late '90s tried to power him up to be that, but yeah,
they've had a very interesting, like you said, very interesting rogues gallery.
Sinister's badass. To go to your point, though, one of the later introduced characters, and I was happy to kind of see Sinister sort of more or less blossom into his own thing. It got kind of weird maybe during the Krakoa era, but I liked it. It was a good weird.
Yeah, no, I liked it.
But hey, case in point, to kind of tie it back to what we're talking about and kind of why you brought it up, a lot of those characters are key characters in the X-Men pantheon, and yet we don't see their books going for a whole heck of a lot. Like for under $200, you could pick up a bunch of those characters' first appearances.
That's true. That's true. But like I said, again, I think at the inevitable march of time, we'll see those things grow further and further. I remember when I was first starting collecting, a lot of the stuff that we now think of, that are like $300, $400, $500 books, or $20, $30 books. And I was always like, oh, that's just a little out of the reach of. I'd rather buy, 10 new books than buy that book. And God, I wish I had bought, Iron Man #1 when I could get it for $25, $30. Back in the day. So
yeah, well, I mean, it was kind of an economy of scale thing too, and that's kind of what I mean. Really, we're talking around another point here, which is that as we are both familiar, especially in the '90s, it became less about going back and collecting those mega keys from the previous generation or earlier, and more about stacking the stuff that was coming out. We talked about the Frank Thomas and the Bo Jackson and the King Griffey Jr. and all that stuff.
Right.
We talked about that. And this is kind of the same logic that got applied to comic books in a lot of cases by card collectors who were doing the same thing, that would come into the card/comic shop and try to pick up a bunch of Death of Supermans or whatever it was. Right. Unfortunately, that's kind of what led to some of the devaluation of those comic books at that point. And we're getting to the point where some of those are still valuable as characters become extremely popular. X-Men 266 was mentioned earlier. Second appearance of Gambit. And that's a comic book that is now an established key, and I think that anybody who doesn't have it that's a Gambit fan is probably either trying to find it or they have it already or whatever. And if you're a Gambit fan 20 years from now, that's probably still going to be the case. And maybe the same thing with X-Men Annual 14. Hopefully we'll see how that situation shakes out. But what I do wonder is, let's talk about Gambit. Let's just use this as an example. In 50 years, what do you think X-Men 266 is going to be worth relative to other comics? Do you think it's going to be in the top echelon of key comic books, or is it going to be relatively less valuable than it is now today?
So it's going to be more, in my opinion, it'll be more valuable than it is today. But it'll never be everything's going to scale up. So, you know, all of that other stuff that's previous, but then you'll also have new keys that are going to be, $200 and $300 and $400 that have sprung up of new characters and like they say that today, nowadays, it's more about the limited version. See you, Eddie. Thanks for being here. It's about the limited edition printings and stuff, because you can get about any book nowadays in some version to read for a relatively reasonable amounts, right? So the game has changed nowadays versus what it was, but print runs nowadays are way lower than they were for each individual printing. Like each individual cover of a book is smaller than it's ever been, but when you total up the number of copies of that book, it's comparative to what it's been.
I don't know if I can agree with it. I don't know if it's comparative to what it's been, but when you factor in survivability, probably, because pretty much every copy of a book printed today is, I'm making a hyperbole here to make the point, pretty much going to survive, short of a weird situation or flooding or fire or something like that. But
yeah, I mean, you would think though, but so let's take Ultimate Fallout 4, for example. I've seen totally wrecked copies of Ultimate Fallout 4. So somewhere along the way, somebody got a hold of it.
I don't mean 9/8 copies. I just mean most copies of compared to any point in human history, more copies of a comic book printed today are probably going to survive than.
Oh yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
People taking better condition.
Yeah,
and then that happened starting in the late
80s?
70s.
Yeah,
people were starting to take a lot more care. I mean, there was collecting going on before that too, but I mean, it wasn't as much of we must preserve this and keep it pristine.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just think it's got to a point where most comic books are going to survive that are printed, and really, I just again, when I think about some of these examples, I just have a hard time imagining that it's going to be increasing in desirability on a scale that is to the point where an X-Men 1 from the 90s is worth.
Well, let me ask you that question. Where do you think X-Men 266 is going to be in 50 years?
So I think that it's going to increase in value in terms of, again, when we say that, we're trying to say, compared to where it is right now, we don't know in 10 years.
We're talking about 50 years from now when you and I are most likely both dead and gone.
Right. But my point is, in 10 years, money could double due to inflation. So
if
I say it's worth, a near mint copy is worth $200 or whatever, it's trying to say the 2025 equivalent of $200, right? I think it's going to be probably double what it's worth now. That's my guess.
That's a fair guess.
Double is in
comparatively double the equivalent price increase value of where it is now.
And when I realistically double to maybe at the max 5 times more, maybe, for a near mint copy. I do wonder when you factor in graded, like, I mean, that's a book where there's so many 9.8 copies out there. It really does make you wonder a long enough timeline what the condition of Raw will be. That's like a whole nother topic. But yeah, I think around there. Whereas I think, like, books that are of more Miles, you mentioned Miles. I think that has the potential to go 50 times more what it is now on a long enough timeline. I think Miles has that potential as a character, whereas Gambit, what have we seen the cultural impact of Gambit be like? At a hugely important moment in the continuation of X-Men the animated series, X-Men 97. We've seen him debut on live screen in a major MCU film, and we'll most likely at some point see him as part of an X-Men project. So that's kind of where he's at, right? Is he going to become the most popular X-Men? I don't think so. And I think, like, he's going to be capped a little bit by the fact that he is on a team of a bunch of characters, with several of which who've been around for decades earlier than him, whose comic books will probably be more desirable, and those characters will carry more of a following down the road. Like, on a long enough timeline, I think Rogue has more potential than Gambit.
So let's ask you where do you think, like, Hulk 181 is in 50 years?
So that to me gets to the really interesting part of the equation. And I think,
has he become like a Batman, Superman type of character at that point, where he's like that revered, like,
and
you said most popular X-Men, that brought that to mind to me. So
no, and for sure. But here's the question I really want to know, and not to, like, crack this open too far, but 50 years from now,
right,
is Hulk 181 the Wolverine book?
Yeah, is it 180? That's true. I mean, does the pendulum swing the other way? True, yeah.
Because it used to.
Let's say both of those books, like,
sure,
they're just as together, like, as somebody who was picking it up to put away for your future generation, for your great grandson or whatever.
I think it could go. That's the one that could go, like, parabolic. As meaning is that it could be the next Spider-Man,
right?
Could be the next. I mean, think about it. I think most people, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Wolverine, are probably the top 4 characters in popularity in terms of comic books. I'm trying to think of who else, and then you probably have a lot of what?
Who else cracks that list?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a bunch of other characters that are competing for that 5th spot, but I think those are probably the top 4.
Wonder Woman, maybe.
Maybe, but, like, I think even Hulk has gotten really popular. Iron Man's gotten really popular, and I'm also thinking, like, over the next 50 years, right? No, you didn't. You did not, Igor. You did not. It's still coming up. And so I think that's the one that has the potential to go parabolic because Wolverine is that popular. Now, you get into that weird part where there's more first appearances of Wolverine out there, whether it's 180 or 181, for people, than there is AF-15, right? So,
right. But there's more AF-15s than there are Tech 27s.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah. And so I think that's where it gets interesting. So it's hard to say exactly, but I think it could go 100 to 200 times what it is today in 50 years. But culture could change. 25 years from now, maybe Wolverine is viewed as a relic character. I don't think this is true, but it's possible. Because of violence, smoking, and the drinking, and all that stuff. Yeah, Harley Quinn's another character that I think had a lot of potential, but it's interesting. We've already seen that character kind of take a step back over the last few years. Right. She looked hot. I mean, this sounds terrible. She looked really hot in terms of a character that was on the rise for a very long time, and I liked that character for a very long time. But now I wonder because movies didn't do so well,
I think she's kind of ingrained more in the cultural like
She is.
zeitgeist now too. I mean, with the Harley and
not going
Ivy
away.
show and
Yeah.
and Suicide Squad and everything else. I mean, we're seeing that character more. Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly what Swagloss is saying. And that's true.
absolutely.
Punisher and Ghost Rider were huge in the 90s. And then even Punisher kind of came back again with some of the Max stuff and everything. And then frankly, you know, another character where I think a couple movies came out and they weren't perceived as doing that well. And I think it hurt that, you know, whether that's the public turning their back on the character or it's Marvel and the studios deprioritizing making future adaptations of that character, all that stuff affects the pop culture impact of those characters. A character like the Punisher, especially, has taken on a much different connotation in 2025 than even though the character was conceived this way and became this in the 90s. In 1995 versus 2025, those are very different interpretations of the character of the Punisher.
Right.
Wolverine could be this, like people, maybe it's you know, the Berserker rage, maybe it's not being in touch with, you know, who he is on the inside in enough ways. You don't know. You don't know how characters are going to be viewed in the future. So it's possible. Short of that, I think he has the most potential out of any of those characters to kind of go extremely high on his value.
Right. For sure.
I
We're
mean,
not talking
Miles
spec or
maybe-
anything here anyway. We're just talking about like where do we see things in like 50 years or whatever. We're not talking like I'll go invest your money here or there. We're just saying like
right. But I think value is a good benchmark of popularity, and I think it's a huge part of the comic collecting. When you think about comic collecting today versus comic collecting 50 years from now versus comic collecting, you know, 25 years ago, value plays a part in probably all of those, and that's where it comes in. It's not really about the sheer value as in terms of. That's a good point. It's a good point.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And talk about the Marvel Rivals effect. You know, for some, it's just weird to me because I feel like Jeff the Landshark had kind of taken off before that, but it seems like everyone points to Marvel Rivals as being like that's where it happened, and maybe it is. But yeah, characters like that definitely, and that's kind of that next order, and that's a character that I mean, legit could cross over into. Think about kids. My daughter has a very different reaction to Jeff the Landshark than I do.
Right.
And you know, she'll possibly be collecting comics in 50 years.
Yeah, I just think that like and none of us honestly know what, but I think that just like that idea of the characters that are significant that could play a major role down the way, like Darkhawk.
Yeah, well, there's that YouTuber that keeps talking about Darkhawk, and if he keeps pumping up that first appearance and eventually does the inevitable pump and dump, man, you heard it here first. Darkhawk #1 is the book to get. For those that don't know, Swagloss is a huge Darkhawk fan. Hey,
but like you say, popularity ebb and flow. Like there's like characters like Starbrand has been an Avenger, right? So I mean, like Starbrand, Darkhawk, a lot of these guys, you never know.
Hey, you know, major victory, right? Like, I mean, talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, you know. but there's a really good example, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right?
No one cared about Guardians of the Galaxy for a very long time. And now it's a household name. Now it's a kind of a different lineup than people would have pictured. Probably
when I came up collecting, the Avengers were a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard to explain to people who don't remember or who have rose tinted glasses just how not popular Iron Man was.
Right.
Now, Iron Man was never a D-list character.
Right.
So I'm not saying that, but Iron Man is a household name, could be on that top 5 list now of most popular characters, maybe, I don't know. And he was definitely a B character,
right?
In the Marvel, you know, House of Ideas kind of sense. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
that stuff can change. And so when we're talking about popular culture's effect on these characters, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like, it's hard to predict that. But short of that, that's a good example. Are people going to care about Iron Man in 50 years? Because a lot of it was MCU driven, and then it became that Iron Man was more popular, like in cartoons and video games, more cartoons and video games, but kind of that pop culture zeitgeist. I hate to keep using that word, but he's definitely become more popular in those terms. On more birthday plates and balloons and that kind of stuff, and toys and everything.
There's
But
kids, there's kids that love Iron Man now. Yeah, he's their favorite character, right?
Yeah, it was because of Robert Downey Jr. Like indisputably, Iron Man 1 changed the game for the future of Iron Man at that point.
Right.
You could make the argument maybe it was Jon Favreau as much or more than Robert Downey Jr. Personally, I think Robert Downey Jr. was just a massive part of that. But I also think Jon Favreau was as well. And that movie just hit when it needed to. It was the perfect time for that actor who had tons and tons and tons of problems and was just starting to turn things around. And yet here was this smash role. It's still crazy to me that you have Robert Downey Jr., who had the history and the story that he had in real life.
Right.
And yet they kind of explore the demon in a bottle stuff with him a little, but they never actually fully go into it. It's kind of interesting.
Right.
Yeah. It was right.
I think it's kind of interesting too, like that we could be starting, we're right at the cusp of them starting to really explore a lot of the stuff that really kind of took off in the 70s, the horror and mystical stuff that really took off. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of that interwoven into things, and that could really play a role in making those kind of characters more ingrained in people's minds and well known to the younger generation. So,
or is the MCU not what it used to be, and it doesn't matter anymore? Because I don't know
that's the way that people are getting exposed. People are getting exposed to those characters that maybe never knew about them. So,
for sure, but I'm wondering to what extent, because I have a really hard time picturing another Guardians of the Galaxy or Iron Man coming out with the way things are currently going. Like Secret Wars could reset the MCU, and the Russos could come in and kind of shake things up, and we get a whole new golden era of MCU stuff. That's totally possible. I think that just about everybody is a little fatigued of the MCU stuff as it is. And I think that there's projects that can shine through, like Fantastic Four has a lot of buzz. You had things like Deadpool and Wolverine that were obviously hugely successful, but it was in a lot of ways more of a Fox movie than an MCU movie. Stuff like that. But it does make me wonder, is there a possibility that you have another breakout success with a character like Brother Voodoo, or gosh, I don't even know who would be the most likely to break out from that. I mean, Ghost Rider maybe could have a renaissance, I guess, but
Werewolf by Night,
Moon
Knight, maybe.
Maybe, but both of those have already appeared, and their versions haven't been earth-shattering.
Right.
So it's possible, but it does make me wonder.
But that shift too also could bring, like, Doctor Strange could become more prevalent in the importance too. So yeah.
And as he's more than welcome to stick around as Old Man Logan. That's the way I look at it. Beta Ray. There we go.
Calling it. There we go.
Yeah, Fantastic Four, I feel like has some potential. Obviously established characters. They're not going to be the next Iron Man. Yeah, X-23, maybe it's possible.
That's another character to put in that list of, like, Miles and Gwen and Deadpool.
Yeah.
More modern characters that have
the next crop of talent, basically. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, but see, I guess the way I'm thinking about it is, it'd be cool to see Ghost Rider, but even hardcore Ghost Rider fans, can you really see Ghost Rider being, like, extremely charismatic to the point where it sweeps the nation. Like, I don't know if I can actually see that. Because it's going to be a CGI flaming skull kind of situation. Maybe it's possible, I guess. Maybe if they have the right talent behind it. Paste Pot Pete. There we go. There we go.
Yep.
Where's Comic Tropes when you
Where's
need him?
Tropes to back that up?
He would. I know he would support that.
He took your advice and he went to go see Jurassic World.
Oh, there we go. The hope for the MCU is that it works like WWE. It goes in waves, and when it resonates with the culture, and they balance new and old talent. Yeah, I mean, that absolutely has potential to work, but I don't know. I think some of that magic from the first few phases of the MCU is just gone. It feels like it's gone. To the point where I, personally, and I'm one of the biggest, like, hey, I'll wait till I see it, and I want it to be successful, but I'm nervous about the X-Men. I'm nervous about a lot of stuff. What's up, John? I did say hi to you earlier, but I was kind of.
I will think positive thoughts and be excited until the day they're bad.
100%. 100%. And then I don't know if we officially shouted out Christina, but she's in this chat as well. We talked about her earlier, but I don't know if we officially said hello.
My friend Christina.
Our friend. After all of her amazing help. Should we kind of move on to some of the news before we have to wrap up?
Yeah, let's go. Okay. Let's talk about some news, but thanks for discussing that. And we didn't get nearly as animated. Well, we kind of got into it a little bit, but
a little bit.
No, I think you have some really valid points about that. So I mean, it's an interesting topic to discuss.
Yeah, it's one of those things where people who act like the status quo will never change. The status quo always changes.
Yeah,
like that. That's, I guess, the point that I want to end with. Unfortunately, we have to talk about something that's pretty sad. And it's kind of stupid how this works. It's old news at this point, but it's the first time we've had a chance to talk about it together on the show.
Right.
And that is that Jim Shooter passed away a little while back. And I think everybody knows about this at this point, and I just thought we needed a chance to talk about it. And I just wanted to take a second to say that, both of us met Jim Shooter together for the first time and had just a wonderful conversation with him.
It was so great. It was just the best way that I could possibly meet that guy. I mean, and neither of us really, we didn't care about getting, I'm not saying that we didn't care about it, but it was not important to us. We just wanted to hear his stories and just, listen to what he had to say. And it was just really great.
We didn't, I don't think either of us got anything signed by him. We didn't film a little video. We talked to him about, I think we literally kind of went up and just wanted to say hi and just told him that we're fans of the era of his work. And we told him a little bit about what we did and Heroes for Heroes a little bit. And he ended up giving us his card, which was really cool.
We were talking about that at the last SummerCon. I was like, I have Jim, one of the coolest things, I have Jim Shooter's business card on my wall.
Yeah. I'll never forget that. And really it was one of the things that I started to feel a little while before that and cemented my feelings. Jim Shooter, the writer, phenomenal writer, such a key part of a lot of my childhood and comic collecting and a lot of ours for that matter. Mm-hmm. I made a post about it the day he passed away. It's his editorial stance and presence that really, to me, it took me decades to appreciate. And hearing him talk, that's actually a lot of what he talked about was editorial and kind of managing personalities.
Right.
And I really do believe that, modern continuities like Marvel and DC would benefit from more of a Shooter-esque approach to how they handle their continuity or their drive essentially behind what they have going on.
Like you said, we would not have the MCU the way that we have it now, because if he did not keep that vision in check, so that we could keep that kind of, everything made sense. We've got Dr. Doom over here, he can't be over there. So and so's fighting him over in Latveria, he can't be in New York right now. Okay, yeah, this character's over in Wakanda right now, he can't be back in Kansas. So it's like,
yeah. And another thing that I wanted to bring up kind of in the same vein, just real fast, is there was a really interesting thing that came up after he passed away, where pretty soon after, people were saying a lot of good memories, but also some stuff. And I wanted to kind of point out, this is Jim Starlin's Facebook wall. And I won't read all this post, but Jim had some interesting stuff to say. He said normally he's not one for airing his feelings in public, but some things just can't be ignored. He wanted to start off by admitting that Jim could be difficult to deal with. His height and demeanor could be off-putting. In fact, his initial encounter with him was a clash, an editorial dispute. But when he got to know him, he discovered that he was someone you might not always agree with, but he's somebody you could always trust. He was always straight with whoever he dealt with. No going around behind your back to screw you surreptitiously. And that is a rarity in the comic book business, according to Jim Starlin. He doesn't get much credit for this, but Mr. Shooter was instrumental in improving the lot of the freelancer writers and artists who produced Marvel Comics during his time as editor-in-chief, getting many freelancers onto Marvel's medical insurance program, setting up incentive pay royalties, making sure people got paid for the work they did. Though Marvel has since rolled back most of the benefits Jim gained for freelancers, there was a time when working for Marvel Comics was a good gig, and that was Jim's doing. He said he owes him on a couple of fronts that he wanted to point out. The reason he said all this is because there's a lot of people that were going around kind of speaking ill about Jim Shooter, and I applaud Jim Starlin for saying this because, as he says here, F the trolls. He's his friend. He's a good person who just passed away, and a lot of people were out there kind of, bad mouthing, and people that had professional disagreements and problems with Jim Shooter, which I'm sure there were people that did. But my point that I made, and I made a reply to Jim Starlin, it's just not the right time for it. It's just, this is the time to mourn the loss and for the family to be grieving and friends. And yeah, absolutely, people have their right to have grievances with somebody, but I think undeniably he was a polarizing person in comic books, but still a powerful, Mount Rushmore type figure when it comes to comics. So
yeah, I've had a chance to talk to a lot of people who worked with him back in the Marvel days, and they said that there was a lot of stuff they didn't see eye to eye on, but there was a reason why he was doing those things.
Yep.
So they didn't necessarily like the way that it played out for them one way or another, but in the long run it was for the best. So
yeah. And we don't need to, I know it's no longer brand new news or whatever, but I just wanted to make sure we had a chance to talk about it because I know
it's important to say how much we thought of him.
Yeah, that conversation, which by the way, it's funny, we met Jim Starlin the same day we met Jim Shooter, which was kind of interesting how that works. But it was just kind of crazy walking away from that con and having been in the glow of Jim Shooter, like we just were like in reverence about it, basically. And,
yeah, it was like one of the last things of the last day that we got to meet him. He was just kind of winding down. There was nobody in line, and we were like, "Hey, let's go have a chat with Jim."
Yeah, and I'm extremely glad we did it. It's what I'll repeat every time: is if you have a chance to meet somebody that you've always wanted to meet, go meet them. Mm-hmm. So another unfortunate thing happened recently, and we talked about Fantastic Four earlier, and this is somebody who's not as connected to comic books, but I think this was kind of surprising to a lot of people and kind of tragic. Julian McMahon, star of Nip Tuck, Fantastic Four, the 2000s Fantastic Four films, and FBI's Most Wanted, died at the age 56. So, and there's a big old ad there. Sorry about that. I just think this is just surprising. It's just surprising and not something I would have expected, but another person we lost at a surprisingly young age, and that's unfortunate. So just wanted to mention that, and I have nothing but fond memories of his time, especially on Fantastic Four. So let's see, what should we talk about next?
Well, there was one other person Michael Madsen, but he's not really a comics person. But...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was telling Bigby, I interviewed somebody who was friends with Michael Madsen, and seeing him post about it just kind of hit home. Like, apparently he was a really good guy behind the scenes. Yeah,
I always loved the characters that he played. He did a great job playing the characters that he played. So
yeah. Well, gosh, I feel like I almost need to go for something a little more lighthearted after those last couple
Let's go with a lighthearted story, Bronze. We got some lighthearted stuff.
Here's something a little more lighthearted. Let's talk about Marvel's swimsuit issue.
That's lighthearted.
So this is interesting. Here's the problem, that when you have ADHD and you scan articles, sometimes you scan articles and you end up walking away for a second with the wrong impression. For a second, I thought that this article was saying that the inside of this issue was written with AI. That's not the case. So there's a preview for the Marvel swimsuit special, Friends and Foes and Rivals #1, which is coming out. Has some great covers from Adam Hughes and Mark Brooks and everything. It's written by Tim Seeley, is one of the writers on it. So one of the subjects in it is that Earth's mightiest heroes are disgusted to find themselves the subject of a lurid super swimsuit spectacular skin mag. Worse still, none of the images inside its pages are even real. Instead, every image of these scantily clad Avengers was made through the use of generative artificial intelligence. And it's all part of the plot to diminish the public respect for the Earth's mightiest heroes that they have fought so hard to earn. So it's by the evil Roxxon Corporation, which from Marvel Comics is kind of being one of the Oscorp and Roxxon are usually kind of the bad guys when it comes to businesses, especially Roxxon.
Right.
But yeah, there's some preview pages here on the CBR article about it that are worth checking out. Written by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleece. So definitely go check that out. A lot of great variant covers, but hey, Marvel swimsuit issues back. Man, for a second I was like, they're using AI, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh wait, no. Yeah. AI is the bad guy in this.
But it kind of brings up an interesting point too. If Marvel ever does use generative AI, this will be an interesting issue to point back to.
Yeah.
Okay. I know everybody wants me to talk about one story. I've been messaged about it all day. So I'm going to talk about something else, because this is an equally bad thing in my opinion. Everyone wants me to talk about the CGC exclusive. Let's talk about this for a second. eBay is testing a new system when it comes to trading cards. That's essentially a little bit like when you do an auction on Whatnot or other live bidding platforms, and there's a bid that comes in, it kind of extends the timer.
Right.
Well, eBay has kind of famously had you can put your max bid in, but there's just, it calculates at the end, whoever had the highest max bid wins. This is apparently an effort to kind of end bid sniping, but they're testing it out right now. This is interesting. It's going to extend, if there's it involves extending auction durations by 2 minutes when a bid is placed in the last 2 minutes of an auction. So basically, the bid can keep going.
That's in their best interest.
I think this might almost be in everybody's best interest. But because if you think about it, if you're the person who really wants to win the comic, or sorry, not the comic, the card in this case, the item, then you can keep bidding on it. The one thing that sucks is when auctions end at a really bad time. For you, for whatever your local time is, this could be really annoying. It also could artificially drum up some prices compared to, in platforms like Whatnot, for example. You do see this where people get competitive at the final stage, and you see this on eBay too. But it's a little bit different on a live auction platform. And it's like, oh, it's going up. Oh, it's going up. And then somebody's like, I really want to freaking win this. And they keep bidding it up. Well, each time that's going to extend that timer and potentially have the bid go up even more. Whereas right now, let's say you're willing to pay, it's a card. So let's say what's a $2,000 or whatever is your max bid for this really nice card. Well, that might end up selling for $2,500 when maybe you would have won it before. I don't know. It's interesting.
So is that how is Heritage does something like that too, don't they? When you have a bid, it extends it, right?
Shigeyuki says my comic shop uses a similar system in their auctions. I don't know about. I've never actually bid on a Heritage auction.
Yeah, I've watched on
Meg's
like
still watching.
Automatic Comics. Still have the Heritage auctions going, and
Okay.
I've watched those happen. I think they have an extension. Also, if Swag is still in here, you could probably say. But
Yeah, I know he. Excuse me for the yawn. My first yawn of the evening. Not too bad. He definitely regularly follows the Heritage stuff for sure, and yeah, Ryan would know as well.
Yeah, him and Ryan and Como Comics are all kind of in that triad.
Didn't they used to like co-stream watching some of the end of some of the
they're
auctions?
all still
Okay.
pals. They still work together.
Yeah. So everyone wants me to talk about the CGC thing. So we're going to talk about PSA announcing their price. Sorry, guys. I'm not doing it on purpose, but I wanted that to be the last thing we talk about. So, again, everybody kind of talked about this already, I feel like, but I'm just going to make sure we hit the bullet points. PSA beginning July 14th is going to accept submissions of $25.99 per item. They're advertising a 20-day turnaround for modern, which is 1975 plus service level. And they're also going to offer cleaning and pressing, or sorry, it just says pressing service, a pressing service for $11.99 per item, which, by the way, I believe is the same price as their card right now as well. So I think they're just kind of matching their card price. I saw a lot of people, the gut reaction from people on this seemed to be too high. We wanted it cheaper.
Here's a really good breakdown. Speaking of Automatic Comics, here's a really good breakdown of the pricing tiers and like what it means comparative to CGC.
Okay.
And ultimately, it breaks down to where they're charging a fair bit more than CGC on everything.
So here's my take on this. Everybody seems to think that this is because they dropped the ball and they should be undercutting CGC. Oh, you got to be competitive, you'd have to undercut CGC. My counterpoint is actually this is probably the smart move, because the worst thing for PSA would be a bunch of really cheap, valueless books getting graded. Because everybody complains about the label, but what's the real thing that everybody thinks would get people to be on PSA's bandwagon?
Resale value.
Number one, resale value. So they want to discourage, in my opinion, they want to discourage having cheap resale value books submitted as much as possible. Now, this won't deter it completely, because people will still submit them at $25.99. They'll still submit the random off-the-shelf book that was a minor key that no one's ever going to care about again, and so it's going to depreciate over time and become valueless. But it's probably going to mean that fewer people will do that would have already, and people are still going to do that with CGC. They're still going to do it with CBCS and all the other grading services anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Proportionately, I think PSA wants to encourage higher value books. Whereas if you're submitting a book that costs $1,000 plus, $25.99 doesn't mean as much to you as it does to somebody who's submitting a $30 book, right? I mean, they're right. First of all, you shouldn't be, but people do anyway. That's my theory on it anyway, as to why they decided to keep a higher price. And who knows, maybe they'll announce some kind of incentive-based membership or value period of time or something like that if they want to get some more submissions in. But yeah.
That was the other thing Ryan was saying was like, and then they're not even taking into account also that like a lot of people who submit to CGC have those membership deals where they get an even lower price.
Yeah.
And so it looks even worse then. And so like, yeah, he's saying he just hopes that this doesn't inspire CGC to say, well, we could raise our prices then. So
yeah, well, and the other thing too that is worth pointing out, and I don't know how this shook out, is people were looking at it. Apparently they're not when it comes to like certified shops submitting, apparently they're kind of requiring like a really high amount of submissions per month or whatever to become one of those, similar to what a card shop would be. I guess it's the same as what a card shop would submit. And I think most comic book stores are like, we're not going to see that kind of volume come through here right away for PSA submissions. So it's going to be harder apparently to be like an authorized submitter for PSA is what a couple shops I talked to thought. I don't know if that's kind of some details have come out that have maybe changed that since that story broke. But I'll try to touch base with those dealers and see what they're saying.
it'd be interesting to see too if they do the GameStop thing.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I'll be curious about that as well. I haven't done that yet, but I've kind of been curious about it. For those that don't know, you can submit your stuff at GameStops for PSA grading.
For cards right now.
For cards, yeah, exactly.
And it's pretty effortless. I've seen it done on people showing how it's done, and it's like there's not a lot of expertise required on the GameStop people's side. I mean, they're just the intake. They take pictures and everything, and then package it all up and get it ready to go. And
see, that's the part I'm worried about is the GameStop. Like, no offense to GameStop employees out there, but I was a GameStop store manager for 5 years. That's the part I'd be worried about is the GameStop employees packaging it up.
Yeah, well, you have to have it prepackaged in,
okay,
the what's it called, the little,
like a top loader, or
it's not a top loader. What's that? It's the grading one, the one that Cardboard Gold makes. Anyway,
oh,
you have to have it pre-done in those.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. This whole thing will be here. I'll be curious to see how it shakes out. Originally, I'd planned on submitting some stuff to PSA right when they first opened up submissions. I'm not going to just for financial reasons at this point, but I probably will when I do a submission again at some point.
Right.
Okay. Let's get into it. This is what everybody wants to hear about. CGC is launching kind of their first exclusive. I say that because they've actually kind of had exclusives before.
Kind of, yeah. They did, didn't they?
Yeah, from
the
BCC,
Superman
and then they had some stuff from Comics Elite that was everything was graded by them, and the label distinct, like every copy in the print run was graded by them. So it's in a way it's kind of an exclusive, but CGC's name didn't appear on the comic book. Although in the BTC Big Time Collectibles one, the first mock-ups that came out, you did see a CGC logo on the comic book. Have a great night, John.
Bye, John. Thank you for being here. Card Saver, that's right. Yeah.
Thanks, Igor. Which, by the way, hello, Igor. You've been very active in the chat. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get through the news stories and get to whatever.
Super appreciate you being a part of that, man.
Yeah, 100%, dude. 100%. Igor's always great at sending me stuff. A lot of it I've seen for the first time. A lot of it I've seen before from other people, but I appreciate he's a good source of information. So yeah, Dan Mora has a Superman variant, pretty cool crypto variant, which is very timely. And now it's going to be in a CGC exclusive. The hot take that everybody has, and I've seen this comment every time this is mentioned, is I wonder how many 9/9s or 10s there's going to be. And that's, I think that's the biggest thing is conflict of interest here. They're grading their own exclusive.
Right.
it's like there's no clearer example of conflict of interest that I can think of.
Right.
Look, I think that, you want to talk about viability of PSA, and PSA certainly has its own issues as a company, but this is not helping with. I mean, this is exactly the kind of stuff that people worry about with CGC, and this is just another brick in that wall that they've built of controversies and questionable ethics. And man,
Yeah, it's does leave kind of a bad taste in your mouth, right?
it's not good. I don't. It's a cool cover. That's all I can say about it. Is it's a cool cover.
Yeah.
Other couple details I should include. It is an SDCC exclusive. It's going to be available at their booth. It's limited to 3,000 copies. Yeah, these books are being distributed ungraded, but they can be submitted for CGC grading at the modern tier or higher and will qualify for a special 1 of 3,000 designation. Whether you're a Superman completionist, a Dan Mora collector, or just someone who appreciates a good boy in a cape, this comic is not to be missed.
So they will be, but it is a CGC book, but it will be distributed ungraded.
Raw. Yeah.
So you'll have the opportunity to submit it.
Yeah, and there is a special label. I don't know if you have, that's the one thing is I don't know if you have to pay extra for the special label. There's a where does it talk about that? Fans can add even more puppy love to their comics by submitting to CGC directly at booth 901 and 4315 for the all-new crypto custom comic book label, which is, I think that's just a custom label that you can get on any book too. So I think you'd probably still have to pay extra to get this one graded with that label. Whatever. That's just another thing.
So they're not profiting really from, they're not selling them higher for a 9.8 or a 9.9 or a 10.0 or whatever. They're selling them raw and then grading them as they normally would, I guess. Which kind of, I can see that as the one saving grace there.
Yeah. I mean, but every grader that sees what that is when that comes in knows what it is.
Right. It's, this is our company's book, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like even I'm willing to say realistically, it's probably not actually going to be that big of a deal. Like, I don't think we're going to see, out of the 3,000, I doubted that 1,000 of them are coming back 10s and 1,000 are coming back 9.9s and every other book comes back 9.8. That's probably not going to happen.
Igor says he thinks it's a freebie.
Okay, so it's free. Actually, well, hold on. It's a CGC exclusive variant. It's limited, like I read, it's limited to 3,000 copies, and it will be available to anyone who makes a submission for grading at the CGC booth during SDCC. Limit one comic per submitter at the show.
Hey, Chris. Are you
and
back
then in the last episode of Ironheart, what we've done is an episode by episode, scene by scene breakdown of Ironheart,
frame by frame.
It's safe.
I tried to make. Is it secret? Is it safe?
No, all we're talking about now is CGC scandals, so it's basically business as usual.
Yeah, I tried to message you right after we got done talking about it, but yeah, sorry if you didn't get it right away.
How was Rebirth? 1,000 perfect 10 CGC isn't that? No, they're definitely not that stupid. So, like, in reality, I don't think. Comic Journey said. So they're not really giving it away. They're giving it away if you purchase their services.
It's an incentive. It's an incentive thing. Like, if you buy something, you can get this free. Yeah.
Which means every single person that gets this is going to submit it. Because you already have to be submitting anyway.
You're already submitting something, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you're gonna add this one in. I mean, 99% are gonna throw it in with their submission. Yeah, no, 100%.
No, that's what we're saying. Yes,
100%. It's just, I'm just pointing out the reality of it is it's probably not going to be skewed, but the reality of it is this is another brick in that wall of the accountability of CGC and the ethics of CGC being essentially walled up and gone forever. That's actually a fantastic question. If Swegelhaus is still watching, I know he's a little more inside on the PSA stuff. Like he's checked out one of the early prototype slabs, at least. I'm sure he's got some connections. I'd be really curious to see if we can find out about that. I'm going to go ahead and add that to my list of questions I'm going to ask around the comics Illuminati and see if I can find out any more about that, because I am curious. But yeah, it's funny. PSA, it comes out with their pricing and everybody rags on it. And then CGC comes out with an exclusive that they're going to be grading. And yeah, yet people will still continue to submit to CGC in droves.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's really all I got to say. But do you have any final thoughts on that?
No, I said what I thought.
Because I didn't mean to do that. I actually was trying to remove that because I want to show some comic community art. It's not
we
an
got
official
some great
jingle.
submissions. If you guys are still here, hang around. There's some awesome art to show. And some of it, which will be kind of available, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention, is that several of the people that we're going to showcase tonight are going to be part of our community art stream for Heroes, and as well as other ways in which we're going to offer up some items for donations.
Yeah,
share the screen here.
Yeah, some really cool stuff, and also if you are an artist or an artist that wants to be a part of that, let us know. Okay, we have to ask the chat, who is this?
Yeah, who is this man? We're probably gonna get some really funny answers, I guess.
This is a YouTuber. He's a comic book YouTuber. We're waiting. Who do you think this man is?
Igor has a great question, by the way. Will a CGC 10 or a PSA 10 of the new CGC exclusive sell for more?
Oh, that's a good question.
Steve Buscemi's Killer. I mean, Journey, I don't disagree with you.
That's bronze.
Clearly, that's Bronze Age Nerd.
Clearly, that's Bronze Age Nerd.
Well, I don't think anybody's got a guess, so why don't you let him know?
I know. I think CJ knows him, but this is Sean from Pop Comics.
Yeah.
He showed this to me. I was like, Somer Himpson. No, it's Sean from Pop Comics. If you guys ever watch Pop Comics, super friendly, nice guy, awesome dude. And so that's Sean.
And did we mention this is Steve's drawing? Steve Driscoll's drawing?
Steve Driscoll. Yeah, the gentleman I showed one of his first drawings he sent to me in the mail. He's progressing along the way there. So
yeah,
good job, Steve. Keep
it up, man. Keep it up. So this comes to us from SideQuest Comics. God, I also it's 8-Ball, and who's the other guy?
Orb,
that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Marvel characters.
Very cool.
Those are very iconic characters, very favorites of a couple people. So I think he did that for a channel that he's friends with. Those are two of their favorite characters. So
I really like this. For some reason, this reminds me of like some Bronze Age like covers and stuff I've seen. I definitely can see
they're definitely Bronze Age characters.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Iconic. Yes, there you go.
Iconic. Yeah, I like it. Oh, I love it. Good job, SideQuest Comics. Roscoe was in here earlier. We actually sold a Roscoe piece during the Heroes for Heroes stream, and he's going to try to be part of our upcoming community art stream. Gotta love Roscoe's art. You and I both love it every time. Everybody does, I think.
That's a great Mad Hatter cover.
Yeah.
I love the Robin picture down there in the corner.
Robin's great. I love it. I love how he uses like the whole cover too.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Roscoe, I know you're probably not still watching, brother, but if you watch this on the rewind, you absolutely nailed it. Good job, man.
Yeah. Very, very good.
We got Norn Rad, aka Rad RN Comics, aka Aaron. Man, they're both sides of, or the front and back of this are really awesome. Like I love the Marvel versus Capcom Iron Man. That brings back so much nostalgia. But this Punisher is badass.
Yeah, this, I guess he did this for Biggie Shaq. So,
dude, that is awesome.
Yeah.
I love the armor. Like just nailed it.
Yeah, it's great. Good job.
Yeah.
And
very good job.
Another person who's we're pretty sure he's already actually volunteering a commission, I think, for
okay, awesome,
for the stream. So
awesome. Again, we're tentatively trying to schedule that for July 26th. Stay tuned for future details on the community art stream. If you want to be involved, reach out. If you do art in the community, or if you just want to be, boost it, or however you want to help support it, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
We got Phil-tastic doing another one of these submissions. Have you ever figured out, does he have like a name for this style?
I don't. Yeah, no, I'll have to ask him. It
I have to
almost
ask
looks
him,
like art sculpting thing. I don't know. It's so
Yeah.
cool the way he's doing
It seems like he's kind of doing like recreations, and he just, it's a little different than his normal style, but it's really cool. I love the way it turns out.
Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool. Iconic moment there. Good job, Phil-tastic. This comes to us from James Foster. Is that Nerdy Musings?
That's Nerdy Musings, Professor James Foster.
Nerdy Musings. Okay, yeah. You're doing a little bit of a Batman page here.
Yeah, some Batman sequentials there.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
great
cool.
shot. This reminds me a little bit of your art, actually, right here. Can see like that's kind of a pose I could see you doing here, but great job, James.
Yeah. No, I like it.
Yeah.
Good job though. Good work, sir. Another person who's actually, he just firmed up a piece he's going to donate. So
yeah,
which
definitely.
we showed that piece actually before on the show.
Oh yeah, that's right. And we'll be posting up anybody who has pieces that are going to be available that are already done. We'll be posting those up too.
Yeah, for sure.
Before that stream.
Just kind of teasing that stuff. Speaking of teasing some stuff.
Hey, speaking of nice from Erwin Papa here. This is a piece from Erwin Papa.
That's right.
And more Batman. Love it. Can't get enough. I love it. The full colors on this look fantastic. The musculature he is ripped.
And I'm going to tease this one because he is actually the original art for this is going to be available.
That's right.
Black and white.
Black and white. Yeah. Love it. So hey, you killed it, man. Speaking of nice, you did great here, and we appreciate the
work, buddy. Awesome stuff.
Yeah. This could be like a pinup in the back of a comic for sure.
I love it. It looks like a lot of parts of it remind me of like Simon Beasley.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
Really cool.
This is from Elliot Wright. Elliot Wright sending in sketch cover here.
Cool. Zoom in on that part of the thing. So
yeah.
And I have some cool news. Elliot's going to be inking some of my artwork, so that's cool too.
Right on.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what that collaboration turns out. Thank you, Elliot, for sending that in. You did great there.
Yeah.
This is from a little known YouTube channel out there in the sphere named Comic Tropes.
That's right.
Love it. That's
so
just
good.
So good.
That's Clutch and is it Prowl?
No, that's Hound.
Clutch and Hound. Yeah.
I wanted to say Springer for a second, the other green transformer that I could think of that's an Autobot, but yeah, it's
Clutch and Hound. I was watching him work on this on a live stream he had, and I was just like, I was chatting at him today. I was like, hey man, can you send me that art? Can I show that? That was awesome, man.
Great, dude. Yeah, I really like anytime Chris draws Transformers, I really am in awe of it because drawing like I was mentioning Norrin Rad's Punisher piece, like because of the armor where he's wearing the War Machine armor. The armor stuff is really I mean, you got to be precise. It has to look balanced, symmetrical, all that stuff. Just a fantastic job.
Energon Universe Allies. That's
Yeah.
right. That if you guys have a chance, check that out. That video, he's talking about the new creative teams coming up for Energon Universe, and it's a really good video.
Yeah. I'm excited.
I'm not just being nice, Chris. It's really good.
No, dude, your artwork for the Baroness piece you did still hangs up on my wall, man. Like, I am a legit fan. By the way, thanks to Comic Journey for helping that hook up. If you're still watching Comic Journey, thank you, and thank you, Chris.
Cool.
This this is by that Bronze Age nerd guy.
That's really good, man.
Thanks. I was trying to draw with my daughter for a while, and she asked me, if I could draw something, and I was like, "Oh, I know she'll like this. This is Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony." And it's totally based on a drawing of. I couldn't find the artist on the piece I got, but it's just me aping the style of a different artist, and then I kind of did a little Pride background in there because I knew my daughter would like it, and it was Pride Month, so when I drew it. So, yeah,
good job.
Thank you. And then we got artists coming in here. Who was that guy's name? Oh yeah, Bigby McFly coming in with some art. Yeah, man, just some extra work on this, looking really good.
Yeah, that is the final pencils for that. So
nice. Are you gonna?
That's one of the pieces that are going to be inked by Elliot. So
fantastic.
Yeah, I'll be excited to see how he takes care of that. But yeah, I had some just like last minute stuff where I was like the left hand I decided to add in with the rope, and then I was like I wanted to have the robot coming up behind Cap, and stuff like just add some more of that feel of what's his name, that Golden Age artist.
Oh, I forgot. You mentioned it before, but I forgot who you were referencing.
Has so much going on in his covers, and that was kind of the feel that when the commission was asked for, what they were want me to go for. I can't think of his name now. The name is escaping me.
Comic Tropes checking out the details here. Absolutely. Dude, you did awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm really happy with the way it came out.
Another one of my favorite artists in the community is somebody who gets to join me every week, and we get to talk about some awesome art. Schomburg?
Yeah, we're surrounded by Alex Schomburg. That's the one. Yep, that's the one I was trying to think of. We're surrounded by extremely talented individuals. I think that you're really good at art, Chris, Travis, Comics Limited, so many people, and like I just want to encourage everybody. Pick up a pencil and pen, markers, whatever you want to do, and start drawing. I mean, like we're seeing, even our buddy that's doing the portraits, Stevie D. Yeah, I mean, he's just starting, and he's much older guy, and just encourage you guys to try it out. It's fun. It's therapeutic.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I mean, on top of that too, if you have a piece that you've worked on, doesn't matter what level you're at in your drawing career. And I say careers in like your drawing experience or whatever. Go ahead and send it into us. We'd love to feature it on the show. Maybe get some eyeballs on your art or get some opinions on your art. No matter what, we'll be positive about it because we appreciate that you're sharing it with us, and we love it.
Like Steve, he sends me like 2 or 3 drawings every day.
That's awesome.
And he's like, "What do you think of this?" And I'm like, I'll find him a little tutorial about, like something that I think could help him, and send it to him. Like, hey, and I'm always pointing out the positive and what I really like about it. So
yeah, absolutely. It was, I mentioned it before. It's one of the foundations of what this show is built on, is trying to encourage things that are good for the community. And we think people drawing in the community is a real positive sign. And it's, something that's helped both of us with some of our stuff in the past too. So, and presently.
I super appreciate everybody sharing. I mean, because that's even like sharing that is being vulnerable, and so I appreciate people being willing to open themselves up to show us. So,
Well, that said, I think we're getting pretty close to the end of the show. I know, got Superman coming out. A lot of people are excited about that. I'm sure people are going to check it out. Always curious to see what the opinions are in that movie. I have a feeling it's going to be a predictable response from some people on it, in an unfortunate way, and hopefully a lot of positive buzz. Jay's seeing it.
Jay's
tomorrow.
seeing it. Jay's seeing it.
I will probably be watching it probably a couple weeks after it comes out, most likely. Speaking of things coming up, there are a couple times this month where I'm not positive we'll have shows based on some stuff going on. So kind of stay tuned to that schedule. We're trying to plan a vacation here for summer. My daughter's having surgery in early August. That may throw some things off as well, but we're trying to get some things done before that. So if that, kind of changes some schedule stuff around, we'll let you know.
I was doing the show dance. So.
Oh, you're doing okay. End of show dance off. Always good to end on a dance number, as they say in show business. End on a song. And then we'll be back next week, 8 p.m. Pacific. Way too late East Coast for most people, probably, with some more stuff. We'll leave on this note from Comic Journey that CGC grading their own book is.
But how do you really feel about
it? I'd go so far as to say it's bullshit, but that's just me. Yeah, absolutely, Erwin. Thanks for the art. Thanks for being here. Erwin. It's only 12:21 here. Yep, exactly. Hey, Damien coming in. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you, Damien. Thank you so much. We absolutely it's a relatively minor thing in the scheme of things, but it's always serious when it's your kid and it's her first surgery and that kind of stuff. So we're hoping everything goes well. Your does not count as surgery. Yeah, you're very, very right about that.
Damien's been known to doodle a little bit. I'm gonna have to hit him up for some artwork.
Yep. And somebody who I'd love to try to connect with when I get a chance to. It's been a long time since I've seen Damien. I want to go hang out, have a beer, something like that with him. He's a good guy. So yeah, thanks everybody for being here. We will be back next week, and then stay tuned for future schedule for Heroes for Heroes stuff and for upcoming shows, because it might change a little bit with the summer and plans and all that kind of stuff. Thanks everybody, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.